Now that I know you so well, don't know how to keep loving you. Let's see here. So I see Twitch is online. I see. Let me get that dog out of the way there. Yes, hello. It's your boy, Zach ZYZ, back at it again with another live stream. All right, I should just tell people that this is going on here. But yeah, I'll give you something to reflect. I should announce the show first, and then all right, I'm gonna say live science fiction. Yeah, da, 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 da. I can't believe that we're gonna edit space tards live on stream. Good God Almighty! All right, let's topic this in LRH. Let's see. I bet not math would like this one. Let me put that in there. Who else would potentially be interested? Let me let Jinx Hugbox know that this is going on. Yeah, sorry if it's a little quiet. I just don't quite have the wherewithal. Who else do I give a nobody else on IRC is allowed up in this. But we'll put it in the radio Discord. I'm going to put it in the JRE Discord. Fucking love the JRE Discord. Hell yeah. So I'm going to take a look at the stream chat in a second to make sure that it's working out there. I'm going to put it in just one of the journalist only channels on the journalist server. Just I don't want, let's see, here we go. There we go. All right, so let them journalists know. I definitely want to get the Real Politics server on this right there, which used to be the Real MK Ultra Discord, which I fucking loved. Wait, did I get the right Kim there? No. It's a fucking imitator of Kim. I can't even highlight Kim on his own. There we go. That's the right Kim. All right, so who am I forgetting right here? Now let me let the Treeline server know. Hell yeah. All right, there we go. So, all right, I let all the servers know. And now there's all of one person in the restream chat loving it. All right, let me see here. Let me get back up to pound LRH. Yeah, space tards. All right, well let me give you. We're starting a whole new stream, so this will be like a new playlist. Anybody who hasn't ever run into me before, if you've been that fortunate so far, will need to know a bunch of whole new things. So my name is Zach ZYZ. I'm a science fiction writer, originally from New Orleans. I live in Brooklyn right now. It's the epicenter of the Caboner virus, which is going on as we speak. Oh, what do we got? I think that's our first chat on the brand new stream from Big Spathiwa, who says that we live. Hell yeah. I should have just highlighted everybody on the server. Well, whatever. So yeah, I'm a science fiction writer. This book, I'm starting to lose count of how many books I've written, in all honesty. My first book was a book called Survival Mode, which was a novella of about this same length, and it's this kind of same pulse-pounding science fiction, action, explosions, that kind of, I like that kind of shit. Then my second book was a dark, erotic fantasy called Xan and Ink. which was pretty dope. But that was a weird one, man. That was just for me, to tell you the truth. Then the third book that I put out was a little short one called The Right to Bear Arms. It was written to be like one subway ride long. It's a story about a piano player who's a veteran that's lost both of his arms. Then my fourth story that I put out was one called The Master Arcanist. It's about an old wizard that's going blind, wandering around on his very last quest. So that one's super fun. I was just speaking with somebody who read it for the first time, and she thought it was super funny. So I take it from this random girl that I'm chatting with because I'm bored out of my mind. Actually, she's like much more accomplished than I am, so I shouldn't really just call her random. Anyhow, what else do we have going on here? Then a book that came out after that, which is the most recent published book. It's called Hawks at the Diner, and it's about the end of the world. And in fact, it's about a plague that originates in China. So check that shit out. Then I have about 3 other books that have not been published yet that I'm trying to sell. And selling books was difficult before the world was in the grip of a terrible plague, and it hasn't gotten significantly easier. So I'm planning on not shaving until, because like odds of me going out with women are pretty slim in these trying times. So I'm not planning on shaving anytime soon, or putting on pants ever. Just chilling at my house here and editing science fiction. So that's me. This stream is meant to be something to do in the background while you're bored early in the morning. I don't know how much value people can really get out of it, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Additionally, I know a fair bit about writing. I'm not like the greatest writer of all time, and I'm definitely not the greatest editor of all time. But we've learned a lot doing the last stream, which was like 180 hours of editing this huge novel called Gravid. I know some people were in on that. But so a little, the protocol is that I'm going to be going through the story and editing it. We're going to read out each line aloud and look for bullshit. Essentially, I'm looking for dialogue that doesn't track. I'm looking for awkward phrasing. I'm looking for anything that knocks you out of the story. And I definitely could use your help. Like if you want to fact check things or have some kind of idea, or even if you just want to comment like, hey, that was really cool, or I'm bored as fuck, why are we doing this? Any feedback is good feedback. What I usually will wind up doing is responding to these comments when I'm not in the middle of like like editing a line or something like that. There is like a slight delay between me paying attention and you saying shit. But the feedback from the last stream is that people want more interaction, and I'll see if I can't make some of that shit happen. Oh, look at this mouse over here in our fucking frame. Should fix that camera next time. All right. So I don't have a fancy intro for Space Tards. So let's start our day by consulting the Oracle right here. What do we got? So I got these here cards. Some of y'all don't know this, but I'm actually a fucking pro at this old tarot. So every day at the beginning of this stream, I'm going to do a draw of 3 cards and read you folks your fortune for the day. All right, so our first card here, I'm not doing that reverse shit, is the King of Cups. Our second card, ooh, the 5 of Cups. And our last card is the Ace, or the Page, actually, of Pentacles. So what a significant spread right here. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about what these cards reflect and how... Oh, hold up.
Test.
Oh, shit, I got $10 already. Hell yeah, it do work. I should add that to the other stream right there. Thank you so much for your $10. I'm glad it do work. All right. So let's take a gander. All right, so here's your fortune for today. So the King of Cups, in this instance, is going to reflect a man who is filled with emotion, but also the master of the emotion. Someone who has reached a place in their development
where they feel no action is necessary. Look at how passive he is. He sits with his cup. He has everything that he could want, but on his face, a look of dissatisfaction. And furthering that dissatisfaction is the Five of Cups. And the Five of Cups is one of the biggest disappointment cards in all of tarot. So I think we can all see that a lot of us have hit a point where we're over this shit, right? We've already mastered the art of being inside. And I think today is going to represent us being disappointed by something. Maybe it'll be something old Donatello does, or maybe it'll turn out that COVID doesn't really make your dick grow the way that we thought it might. But I want you to take a gander behind this cloaked gentleman or gentlewoman, it could be either, sitting here on the Five of Cups. Because even though much has been spilled, much has been everything ravaged, everything lost, there are still two upright cups behind him. Not all has been lost. And so the Page of Pentacles is actually a very suitable card here. It represents the beginning of a brand new enterprise. So the Page of Pentacles, the Pentacles is about the physical world. It's about industry. It's about making things. It's about crafting. It's about forward progress with material goals. And the Page represents someone's either coming into like a relationship with some sort of journeyman, somebody brand new in their craft, or potentially it might represent a brand new enterprise. And for me, these cards are very telling because I'm definitely was getting kind of over this shit. I had some significant disappointment with our last thing, but here I am starting a brand new fucking enterprise. So if nothing else, this works for me. Man, look at how it go. It's funny the way that interpretation works. All right. So I do like them old cards. You can also, via the chat, request me to pull some cards for you at some point here. Names for babies born 9 months from now, aka children of the quarantine. And then, yeah, some lady is going to name her child Koivid or something like that. Brilliant, man. It's fucking brilliant. All right. Well, yeah, don't feel upset if it seems like there are not many people on the stream and so forth. It takes a while to build up an audience on something like this, and there's been a long break since the last thing that we edited. But this is going to be a daily feature because after we edit this short story, we are going to start working on one of my favorite books that I've ever written. It's called Lemon Maybe and the Electric Lady. I just did a new rewrite of this book, and I'm pretty fucking happy with it. Okay, so yeah, my main attention will be on the chat and restream, but you can ping me on Discord or IRC or whatever if you need my assistance. Okay, cool. Nothing. Fat Pussy 19. I don't know if that one's gonna make the cut for whatever. Okay, and then I think I can do this until about 9 o'clock, and then we may take a short break, and then I may just continue doing this afterward here. I have not had anywhere near as much mana during the COVID thing. All right, let us begin. Space TARDS by Zach Z. Wisey. Chapter 1. The Admiral had seen many breaches, but he was still excited. Breaches were compelling, frightening and unquantifiable in a world where all else had become safe and routine. I don't like... The anomalies were frightening and unquantifiable in a world where all else had become safe and routine. For days, okay, so... The name of the ship is Polybius. Shoutouts to Polybius. For days, the Polybius had loomed in the emptiness at a considerable distance, watching the Herald radiation shimmer. Herald radiation is not capitalized. What? Oh, shoutouts to Polyhurt, by the way. This line is for him. For days, the Polybius had loomed in the emptiness at a considerable distance, watching the Herald radiation shimmer in senseless fractals that built up like a slow and anticipatory drum roll. That is kind of a run-on sentence. there. Mm. Also, like there might be a semicolon at distance, but I still am not 100% on semicolon rules. The radiation levels hit C, and like clockwork, the HMASS Polybius's prime AI issued her Cassandra. All right. Yeah, this first chapter is kind of difficult to unpack here. It's really hitting our readers with a bunch of bullshit. Shoutouts to Cassandra. Some of y'all may remember that section from Gravid. Mm-hmm. Now let's make that Chandra. The radiation levels hit Chandra, and like clockwork, the HMASS Polybius's prime AI issued her Cassandra. All displays dipped to red, blaring a dire advisory that the mission should be immediately terminated and they should escape the sector with all possible haste. The crew ignored the AI's warning. Here and there, okay, so here, the crew ignored the AI's warning. No, we also don't need warning twice. A few of the junior officers let the hint of a grin slip past their military bearing. Yeah, so if you're ever in the military, this is, you're constantly confounded with this military bearing horseshit, where they're like, oh, your military bearing, where you're supposed to be like that all the fucking time, 24/7, while some asshole is yelling at you. I was never a fan of military bearing, to say the truth. Call me crazy. Just seemed kind of boring to me. But I digress. So the radiation levels hit Chandra. The crew ignored the AI's warning. A few of the junior officers let the hint of a grin. A few of the junior officers let grins spoil their, yeah. Here's what we need. A few of the junior officers allowed grins to spoil their military bearing. There were so few opportunities to feel superior to an AI, each needed to be savored. Every breach, the ship's AI would warn them to flee. Every breach, they would ignore her. There we go. So Chandra is actually a throwback to survival mode. So there we're talking about the Chandrasekhar limit, which is the point where if a star is above a certain mass, it's destined to go supernova. And in this case, when the radiation levels hit that Chandra point, a whale is destined to appear. So yeah, we'll get into that in a hot second here. There were so few opportunities to feel superior to an AI. Each needed to be savored. Every breach, the ship's AI would warn them to flee. Every breach, they would ignore her. It was satisfying, like rolling a stripe of electrical tape over an insistently blinking check engine light. So, as a little anachronistic in the context of this future thing, but I do believe that as long as men exist on God's gay earth, there will be check engine lights, and people will roll electrical tape over them. That's just my theory. Maybe it'll be a huge anachronism. There are a few spots in this book where I'm just like, that is anachronistic in the context of this story. But a lot of we'll get into it in a second. But a lot of the story is about very low tech stuff in a very futuristic setting. So we'll get into how that mechanic works later in the chapter. The Smarts were still trying to invent an AI that wasn't terrified of herald radiation. So far to no avail. Every sentient machine melted into a simpering coward the moment it detected even a single erg of the unknown force. Right now, the entire anomaly was no more than the output of an industrial microwave cooker, but that was changing rapidly. We almost need an M dash there. The Admiral watched the herald fractals blooming. Yeah, see. Well, I think. Oh. Yeah, I think we capitalize like. Yeah, let's just do. The Admiral watched the herald fractals blooming on the display and wondered for the 100th time. There's no time there. So Skip Doa UK, Doa Hugh, Skip Doa Hugh UK says, "Hi, what you doing? Writing a book." And very well, yeah, indeed. We're editing a book which has already been written. This is a short story called Space Tards, and I really should have set the titles and stuff up in YouTube. It's too late now. We'll change them after the fact. But yeah, right now it's saying that this is like Gravid or whatever, but I need to change all the titles for all of this because this is a brand new book that we're doing. Yeah, so I edit these on stream, and if people are interested, they can hop in with suggestions and so forth. But yeah, we're going to read through this entire book line by line and edit the whole thing. So it's more of an editing stream than a writing stream. But in places, we will certainly have to write new sections to make up for the bullshit. So it reminds you of the Constertion. I'm not reminded of the Constertion because I don't know what that is. Spelling of Constertion. Well, it means something in Hindi. I don't know what Constertion is. I'm liking it. Okay. Yeah, but yeah, we're gonna get into this. The fun part is after I think this first chapter. To tell you the truth, we're just setting up here. It's like we're racking pool balls, and in a second we're gonna have the break. Oh, that's all right. Yeah, no worries. The Admiral watched the herald fractals blooming on the display and wondered for the 100th time what the hell they meant. What in the well they meant. Okay, so one of the gimmicks of this story is that there's no cursing in this entire story, even though it's about Marines. And everywhere we've used like these weasel words for all the profanity. So if you see anywhere where I've just put like a curse word or a giant ethnic slur in like 60-point font in the middle of the narrative, that's not supposed to be there. There should be no cursing in this by the time that we're done. So unfortunately, this looks like a typo. What the well they meant. He stroked his beard. The Admiral. We should talk. He stroked his beard, which was steel gray, trimmed within a millimeter of mil-spec. It was a very human thing, trying to assign meaning to any phenomena that seemed ordered. The AIs claim the radiation. The AIs claim. Let me see. The AIs claim the fractals were arbitrary, but machines simply could not be trusted where breaches were concerned. At the moment, the ship's AI was insisting the radiation field that had previously been just a few piddling kilowatts an hour ago was now a screaming mega maser, outputting roughly the same energy as Canis Majoris. Canis Majoris is a huge fucking star. It's gigantic. Um, as FYI, her reading was obviously wrong. Such an omission would have instantly incinerated the Polybius and anything else in the sector. Whew. Yeah, the voice of this first chapter is so nerdy in comparison with what comes next. We may, I don't know, we may do a style pass on this. I haven't quite figured out where the story is at yet, but we may want to tone down some of the Harold louder at the first part of this whole thing. But the thing to hate, what AIs hated most about Herald radiation was that a sensor hadn't been found that could directly detect it. All right, so we're not capitalizing Herald radiation. I kind of, yeah, you know, we're going to capitalize all instances of Herald, but not radiation. The reason being is that one, we use the word herald elsewhere in the story, and it needs to be distinguished between the two of them. Later on, there are a different kind of herald that comes into being. And the other, let's take off this whole thing. Constitution by Nick Webb. Yeah, I haven't read that one. I'll have to gander at it. All right, so we're replace, next, replace, next, replace, next. Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, so I'm making that. Some of these, you know, like things like capitalization and where you put semicolons and so forth are do a phrase replace for herald radiation. Where this is, I've only made those changes. Elsewhere in the book, it should be correct. But I kind of think about just calling it Harold, like the name HAROLD. But maybe we'll change that after the fact there. Okay, let's get back to this. At the moment, the ship's AI was insisting the radiation field that had previously been just a few piddling that had. Oh yeah, we don't need previously here. At the moment, the ship's AI was insisting the radiation field that had been a few piddling kilowatts an hour ago was now a screaming megamaser, outputting roughly the same energy as Canis Majoris. That is an M dash. Oh no, that looks wrong. If they can't direct it, how would they know it's there? Interesting question. Let's get. If they can't detect it, how would they know that it's there? Let's get into it. What the AIs hated most about Herald radiation was that a sensor hadn't been found that could directly detect it. Measurements were all made via inference from anomalies in other sensor readings, and something was absolutely wrong with the model. Nothing made an AI crankier than something she couldn't see and couldn't understand. The smarts had been claiming they were on the verge of a breakthrough on a unified theory of Herald radiation for decades. The breach had begun. The tone began to play on the bridge speakers. There was a technical initialism for it, but it was unwieldy. Everyone simply called it the pitch. Yeah, so basically to answer your question there, the idea is it's a weird radiation that humans haven't found a way to reliably sense, and they can only figure out it's there because there are other readings in their other equipment, things like gravimeters and interferometers and LiDAR and so forth, starts to have anomalous readings in it that don't make sense. And through that, they try to interpret what's going on there. Yeah. Let me see. The breach had begun. A status tone began to play on the bridge speakers. There was a technical initialism for the sound, but it was unwieldy. Everyone simply called it the pitch. The pitch was a slow... The pitch was a slowly sweeping audio tracker that gave them a constant indicator of the estimated herald radiation frequency. The oscillation had been endlessly analyzed. Sometimes it was a perfect logarithmic curve, sometimes it seemed almost random. Only one thing was certain. When the tone hit 22 gigahertz, something would happen. As always, the Admiral felt a momentary camaraderie with all the captains who had observed a breach. A great many of them had died for the privilege, and soon he might be among them. Even the most stringent breach protocols had proved inadequate, time and time again. The events were predictably unpredictable. The Admiral ignored a new wave of alarms blooming on the displays and cast his vision to the breach, demanding the AI keep her eyes on it. The Admiral ignored the new wave of alarms blooming on the displays, on the bridge displays, and cast his vision to the breach. He had to order the AI to keep her eyes on the anomaly as she attempted to divert all cameras. The AI delivered an unusual second request to terminate the mission, and the Admiral could see why at once. All the measurements were just meaningless lines howling off the top of their scales. It was going to be a big one. For an instant, the Admiral felt an instinctive urge to pray, but it found only the numb scar where religiosity had been amputated from his mind as a condition of assuming command. For an instant, the Admiral felt a vestigial urge to pray, but it found only the numb scar where religiosity had been amputated from his mind as a condition of assuming command. If he was about to be obliterated, it would be without illusions. The breach expanded, and the entire bridge gasped as the largest whale any of them had ever seen emerged, trailing the distinctive tendrils of distortion that smarts thought might be Mm. The Black Hulk silently emerged from the invisible radiation field, trailing the distinctive tendrils of distortion that the smarts thought might be tears in space-time. This whale was so big it was nearly at the boundaries of the breach, and they observed a novel phenomenon. So Axel Boost says, "Hey, I was wondering where you've been. I guess your streams have been ending before I got on." No, so we took a break after the completion of Gravid because I was losing my goddamn mind, and I spent about 2 months working on this story, which is just meant to be dumb and fun, like not Pulitzer winning whatever. This is just like hard science fiction with plenty of explosions. All right. So what? So dates says that it should be strip of tape. I like having it be a stripe of tape, honestly. But I think Dates makes a good point here. That all right, so he's talking. Also, like it's much easier for me to see your chats if you put them onto YouTube. Let me see how goes writing in quarantine. So the writing has been so slow. Yeah, like without my daily routine of like going to work and everything, I just sit around my house and play League of Legends. It's fucking awful. Um, so Skip Dohue, UK, says you tend to leave your imaginary friends behind as you get older. Not true. If you have paranoid schizophrenia, then you get more and more friends all the time. Uh, all right, so this is the line that he was talking about. He was satisfying, like rolling a stripe of electrical tape over an insistently blinking check engine light. So I'm going to stick with stripe there because I like the way that the words feel there. You're rolling a stripe of something as opposed to rolling like a strip of electrical tape. But if that seems aggressively wrong to anybody, let me know. But that does seem like the kind of thing an editor would come in and say. So Axel Boost says, I hope you're at least winning the league games. I mean, I'm like over 50% win rate, but that's, I miss Treeline. Anyhow, so yeah, we're gonna stick with that. This whale was so big, it was nearly at the boundaries of the, so whale shouldn't be, we'll just leave it capitalized here, but that might be something that we change later on. This whale was so big, it was nearly at the boundary. Well, let's actually look into that. So whale is like a nickname for these anomalous alien hulks that appear in breaches. It's not a proper name. Yeah, we don't capitalize it. And in fact, we can just do whale, so 103 of them found there. Let's just replace them all immediately. What? Why is it not doing that? Okay. There we go. Yeah, because there's no, there should never be a sentence that begins with whale. Yeah, like I like this whole book is like gonna be like a Clockwork Orange level of slang there. We almost might have to include a fucking glossary at the back of this guy. I like the idea of a glossary. One thing I do have at the end of the book is a roster of all the Space Marines that will be involved here. Let's see. We can't just call them Hulks. Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. All right, so here's why you should never say never. This whale was so big it was nearly at the boundaries of the breach, and the crew of the Polybius observed a novel phenomenon. The breach was pulsating, trying to expand to let the whale pass through. They could see trouble right away. The motion of the whale was halting, and there was a ring of dazzling white light at the breach's edge. The admiral was aware of a ripple through his officers. Each was going. Each was going through the same phantom prayer he had, each feeling the missing piece of themselves. Space Marines is this Warhammer. Changing the jargon turns to the TARD misheard equivalent. Okay, so all through the book, that's going to come up there. Only the first two chapters are on the Polybius, then it's all TARDs all the time. So let's go through this paragraph one more time. This whale was so big it was nearly at the boundaries of the breach, and the crew of the Polybius observed a novel phenomenon. The breach was pulsating, trying to expand to let the whale pass through. I think here, We should have some kind of. We should have something about the shape of it. I want to say it's like. It looks like a blimp. This whale was so big it was nearly at the boundaries. Yeah, yeah. They could see the trouble right away. They could see the trouble right away. The motion of the whale was halting. It should be forward motion. They could see the trouble right away. The forward motion of the whale halted, and there was a ring of dazzling white light at the breach's edge. The whale was so big that when he sits around a house, he really sits around a house. I don't know. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that. Let me see. Whales came in several classes and designations. This was the largest Hindi class whale that had ever been recorded. Vermintide Harlequins and the Grand Inquisitor. Oh yeah, Axle Boost. Yeah, I'm not. I see your error and so forth, but we're working on it. Whales came in several classes and designations. Let's see. Let's see. Whales came in several classes and designations. What do we have here? Oh shit! I got some lightning bolts or whatever. Thank you. I don't really know what things mean. What is that? Mixer or? Let me see. Yeah, I think that one's mixer. or whatever. I don't know what those little things are, but thank you just the same. Uh, I mostly stream on YouTube and Twitch, but I've got this set up with a program called Restream so that it goes to like a ton of different things at once there. All right. So whales came in several class. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what can I do with sparks? Can I like make my channel shiny and gold or something? I don't know. So whales came in a wild assortment of shapes and sizes, and the Navy had a designation for each. I don't know why it always tries to capitalize Zeppelin. Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. Well, I appreciate it. From the Zeppelin shape and lack of any exterior lighting, this whale was a Hindi class, most likely the largest that had ever been recorded. I don't think that sentence belongs there. There you go. Mm-hmm. This whale was in trouble. This whale was in trouble. The hulk's forward motion ground to a halt, and there was a ring of dazzling white light at the breach's edge. The admiral was aware of a ripple through his officers. Each was going through the same phantom prayer he had, each feeling the missing piece of themselves. Whales that were prevented from diving had an unfortunate tendency to explode with approximately the same energy as a Type 1a supernova. A similarity. This similarity had vexed astronomers to no end, since so many of their measurements were based on the Chandrasekhar limit, which is true. A lot of what we think about the distance, the relative distance between stars, is measured by type 1a supernovas, right? Because we think that they're a pretty consistent size. So we use a lot of them in our sort of mapping of the universe and so forth. So the idea here is that if there are alien spaceships that just blow the fuck up all the time, in relatively the same size as a supernova thing, it would upset so many cosmological maps and so forth. So yeah, I don't know how many readers will find that interesting, but I like it. It's a neat concept to me. The similarity had vexed astronomers to no end, since many of their measurements were based on the Chandrasekhar limit. The smarts thought this meant the whales somehow used white dwarfs as their power supplies, but they were only speculating. No one had ever laid eyes on a whale's power plant and lived to return back. Used. The smarts thought this might mean, yeah. So here's an interesting thing. I actually had to research on the pluralization of white dwarfs when I was writing this, and it's not dwarves, V-E-S. It's actually white dwarfs. Don't ask me why. As usual, they were only speculating. No one had ever laid eyes on a whale's power plant and lived to report back. Okay, so whales that were prevented from diving had an unfortunate tendency to explode with approximately the same energy as a Type 1a supernova. The similarity had vexed astronomers to no end, since many of their measurements were based on the Chandrasekhar limit. The smarts thought this might mean that the whales were somehow using captured white dwarfs as their power supplies. As usual, they were only speculating. No one had ever laid eyes on a whale's power plant and lived to report back. Everyone on the bridge was aware that no one had ever recorded a whale failing to breach either. That didn't mean it had never happened. Let's change that to the officers on the bridge. Let's try this. The officers on the bridge were all aware that no one had ever recorded a whale failing to breach. That didn't mean it had never happened, just that it had likely killed everything for 10 parsecs. The HMASS Polybius was currently stationed at exactly the distance. Oh, so I don't think we go into this, but Hamas stands for it should be IA, you think? Are you sure on that? Let's... Okay, so type 1A. So yeah, I guess it's IA, but you read it as type 1A. Oh, so the I is a Roman numeral. That, okay, yeah, so you're both right. And yeah, so yeah, for clarity's sake, it should be type 1A, but the right way to do it here is to have the Roman numeral. So we'll put it that way, and that's more of a note for the person that's reading the audiobook. For a reader, like they're not deeply thinking, oh, a type Roman numeral 1A supernova. I know exactly what that means. Some people will know exactly what that means. I suspect the vast majority of it are like, when are you going to get to the fucking explosions, guy? Do we care at this level of Spurg at this point in editing? Yes. Yes, we are at that point where we care at that level of Spurg. And I have essentially unlimited time to do so we can really just fucking relax and try to get the best edit in that we can. We don't have to rush forward like we did with Gravid. There's no time pressure. There is no publisher on the face of this earth that will publish Space Tards. I'm just putting it out there. Not even if we change the title, not even if the first 30 pages of the story are an apology for me even daring to. Nobody is going to publish Space Tards except for me. And that means that we can do whatever the fuck we want. We don't have to make any concessions to modesty or whatever. I'm just going to throw it on Amazon and nobody can fucking stop me. I do all my own art. Hell yeah. Huge, massive ass starship. So it stands for Her Majesty's Australian Space Service. They are all Australians on this ship, on the Polybius. It never comes up in the story, but you know because you're watching the stream. Huge, massive ass starship. I like it, to tell you the truth. That might be canon there. The officers on the bridge were all aware that no one had ever recorded a whale failing to breach. That didn't mean it had never happened, just that it had likely killed everything for 10 parsecs. The HMASS Polybius was currently stationed at exactly the distance breach protocol dictated. Oh shit! Yeah, I'm getting them sparks. I have no idea what to do with sparks, man. I don't know. Can I buy video games with them or whatever? I just bought Bannerlord, but I died like 4 times during the tutorial. I was like, fuck this. It's hard to swing swords in that thing. All I got is javelins. It's bullshit. I want a lance. So the HMASS Polybius was currently stationed at the distance breach protocol dictated. 10 light minutes. They were all going to die. The AI sent her third plea for a retreat. The Admiral had never seen an AI issue 3 Cassandras. Oh, hiss off, you coward, the Admiral ordered the AI. Every eye on the bridge was on him. He hadn't meant to vocalize that command. The Admiral was suddenly aware those might be his last words, and he gazed at the breach, trying to think of something inspiring to say. Looks like a turd pinching off halfway and getting sucked back in, the Chief of Marines opined. No one laughed, and the comm obviously didn't care if they did. His description was undeniably apt. The Admiral exhaled pointedly, making it abundantly clear he didn't approve. It was no secret he would have preferred someone more polished as his second in command, but the comm had more combat experience than the rest of the bridge combined. Some of the junior officers had none at all. They had been handpicked by the Admiral for other considerations. So let me run through this because this is an important point in the thing. The Admiral had never seen an AI issue 3 Cassandras. Oh, hiss off, you coward, the Admiral ordered the AI. Every eye on the bridge was suddenly on him. Every eye on the bridge was suddenly on him. He hadn't meant to vocalize that command. The Admiral realized those might be his last words. And he gazed at the breach, trying to think of something inspiring to say. Looks like a turd pinching off halfway and getting sucked back in, the Chief of Marines opined. No one laughed, and the comm obviously didn't care if they did. His description was undeniably apt. The Admiral exhaled pointedly, making it abundantly clear he didn't approve of the outburst. It was no secret he would have preferred someone more polished as his second in command, but the comm had more combat experience than the rest of the bridge combined. Some of the junior officers had none at all. They had been hand-picked by the Admiral for other considerations. Hell yeah. Together, the officers watched the great space sphincter contract, and they waited to die. With silent, incredible violence, the breach tore the whale in half and then vanished. There was no supernova. They didn't die. They gripped at their chests, assuring themselves. The officers didn't die. They gripped at their chests, assuring themselves they hadn't been vaporized. They uttered thanks to nobody and furtively glanced around, checking to see if anyone had hissed themselves. "It's huge!" a lieutenant who didn't know any better exclaimed. "Is that the biggest whale we've ever recorded?" "Bigger than that," the Admiral said, deadpan. Protocol dictated that he was not allowed to grin, and they were not allowed to groan and roll their eyes, but he grinned anyway. They had survived the largest breach ever recorded. If they got out of this alive, they would be legends. The Admiral glanced at the half-eaten whale. The Admiral gazed at the half-eaten whale. The bite mark was still glowing white-hot. Even broken in two, it was still almost 20 kilometers long. There was a blip in the lights, and they received a notification the ship's AI had gone insane and had been rolled back to the default firmware. The Admiral sighed, cursing the smarts. That breakthrough AI was coming any day now. Oh, so shout out to Ryan the Southerner there, who I believe was a part of the edit for Gravit. Yeah, so hey Ryan, this is actually a new story that we're editing. You can see up at the top there. It's called Space TARDS. And I just forgot to update the title on like Twitch and everything like that. Somebody remind me, and I will do that at the end of the stream. But this is just a teeny little 28,000 word novella. It's about the same length as my book, Survival Mode. There, so it should be about between 80 and 100 pages. And yeah, just like I'm enjoying it so far. We're getting to the good part right now. That AI breakthrough was coming any day now. No, we don't, that line is superfluous. We can zip it. I'm actually doing very well in the quarantine. I think I already got that Rona and recovered from it, but I'm knocking on wood here because I might not have gotten it yet. Yeah, Brooklyn is real fucked up. I was at the liquor store last night. I had to like wait in a queue. Only one person could go inside at a time. And they told us that they were shutting down the liquor store for 2 weeks. So I don't know what all these alkies are going to do when they can't get their liquor. But I bought a bunch of whiskey, so I won't be one of the ones rolling around in the street. But what do we got here? Love this shirt, by the way. Shout out to Hot Topic. The Admiral sighed. He didn't sigh. Cursing the smarts. Silently cursing the smarts. "Orders, Admiral?" the stupid lieutenant asked. The Admiral bit back a severe reprimand and ignored the idiot. Fear made men forget their places. Let's... imagine writing a book in your own... This is not quite a conlang. It's much more of just a mutation of standard English. And it's almost all like homophone replacement for the most part. Because, as you'll soon find, these Marines are maybe not the brightest people to ever venture into a whale. "Orders, Admiral?" The witless lieutenant asked. The Admiral bit back a severe reprimand and ignored the idiot. Fear made men forget their places. He shot a look at the man's CO, who gave a pained nod in return. The officer who should have asked for orders was the captain of Marines, but the comm was gazing at the immense whale on the display, his expression inscrutable. The Admiral gazed at the ugly mess of scars on the back of the Marine's neck, waiting for scopisthesia to kick in. The comm only scratched idly at his ancient burns, still peering at the monster. Chief of Marines. Okay. Let me see. Orders, Admiral. Comma? Oh, yeah, that absolutely needs a comma. Right there. Orders, Admiral. Perfect. Good comma. Oh, I wanted to set up a bot for this that has like a leaderboard. We might do that for, so this is just a short edit. This shouldn't take, it'll take less than a month, maybe like a week or two to edit this guy. And then afterward, we're getting into a big book called Lemon Maybe and the Electric Lady. It's a superhero book set in New York City, and it is fucking dope. For that one, I think we're going to try to add a chat bot that has a leaderboard for the number of edits that are accepted and good ideas that people have, and I'm going to give out points and shit like that. And at the end of it, I'm going to have prizes for whoever is at the leader. I don't know, like maybe like a special page in the book, or send you like an autograph copy or whatever. But let's get to it. So, sir, the comm asked, turning back to the Admiral. For a split second, the Admiral could see undisguised persiflage in the captain's face. He was immediately replaced by military bearing so total the Admiral began to doubt he'd even seen that sly hint of a grin. But it was surely there. The comm thought he was a buffoon. He probably wanted a commander who wasn't so theatrical. If I win, I want 2% of tails. 2% of sales would be like $2. Oh God. Yeah. I got to work on. I'm going to work on that system today. Also, we're updating the Patreon for the radio show today, so I'm going to get on that. But it was surely there. The comm thought the Admiral was a buffoon. But it was surely there. The comm thought the Admiral was a buffoon. He probably wanted a commander who wasn't so theatrical. The Admiral flashed a toothy smile and doubled down. Captain of Marines, the Admiral commanded, puffing up his chest and raising his voice as if he were addressing the whole crew. Send in the TARDS. I'm fucking loving it. Send in the TARDS. So Ryan, the Southerner, says, I'm currently writing more words for my non-spoken conlang, the one for my friend's 19th birthday. Oh yeah, I didn't know. So you're writing a language as a gift for your friend on their 19th birthday. Yeah, you guys are going to wind up being linguists in the military. I can see that coming already there. It's good money, but oh my God. Yeah. So, by the way, TARD stands for Tardigrade Augmented Recon Demolition Specialist. So Recon Demolition Scavenger, or Tardigrade Augmented Recon Demolition and Salvage Marine. I think it's salvage. Send in the TARDS. Oh my! So that's what I'm gonna make. I'm gonna try to make an intro video for this today, and we'll use like a MIDI file of some. I'll see if I can find a public domain version of "Send in the Clowns." Oh, that's gonna be gorgeous. I don't think that I can edit. I don't think I have time to do. I don't know. Let me see. Maybe I'll make another one of those weird paint drippy intro things. But yeah, that's gonna be the music for it. Send in the Clowns. Hell yeah. I love waterbeds too, so these guys are inspired by tardigrades. Sir, the TARDS refuse to deploy. The captain of Marines blinked at the chief petty officer, not comprehending. Tardigrade augmented, recon demolition salvage machine Marines didn't refuse orders to get on a whale. They loved the work. They were literally born for it. It didn't make any sense at all. It didn't make any sense that they would refuse a crack at the greatest whale of all time. So the reason I'm doing it is my friend is a cartoonist that has his own set of characters and settings, one of them being the monster realm, the location for the current content. Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, that'd actually be super useful. Yeah, like if I, let me see. I'm going to predict that, like if it is your heart's desiring, that as a result of this gift to your friend, you will definitely have sexual intercourse with them. Because like that's such an amazing gift to give to a writer. Like sitting down and throwing together. Like I have so much love and respect for the people who have helped me organize the shit that I'm working on right here. People have like put together like little wiki things or been like, oh, hey, your map doesn't work here and stuff like that. Tremendous respect for them, and tremendous disrespect for fanfic writers. So I don't know how that works out, but it is indeed an amazing gift to Gig. Well, I hope that his gift of a language is reciprocated in the manner of his choosing. Anyhow, I don't want to get too deep into it, but that's actually really cool right there. Like making a, I don't want to diss fanfic writers either, right? But I'm not a fanfic fan. Good Lord. All right, let's get into it. So 2 is where we can start to have fun. I think, all right, let's analyze our chapter 1 that we had right there. That's a little bit clunky. We go real hard on the science fiction bullshit right there. And I think we're probably going to turn off some readers there. Yeah, I think the tone, and the tone's a little different from the rest of the piece too. You'll find that a lot. And in fact, one of the things that we might start doing here, and this is an idea that I've just had, is after we complete an edit, go back and do the first chapter one more time. And keep in mind, like most of the stuff before I put it out for publication, we'll have a real editor take a whack at it. But I think you know your first chapter is your most important chapter by far. And I want to say that let's take a look at what our pages are like. Oh, I don't have fucking page count in this. Why? Okay. Insert page number. Oh my god, it's like 100. Okay. There we go. That's cool. So, yeah, you should have page numbers in your fucking story. Space TARDS. I love seeing it at the top of every fucking page. Hell yeah. Imagine being a fanfic Reddit looks around. I don't think I ever wrote, even when I was like a very, very little kid, I don't think I ever wrote in anybody else's universe. I remember the first comic books that I tried to make were all my own like characters and shit like that. And they were like these weird bean-headed dudes that had giant shoes and had fucking teardrops on their chest for some reason. I used to draw that shit all the time at middle school. So Axel Boost has always written both original stories and fan fiction. Yeah, I don't, it's never been my thing, but I'm very arrogant. And I think that's a big part of, like not wanting to use anybody else's stuff. And, you know, you wind up reinventing the wheel over and over again, doing stuff that other people have already done better. So one thing that we're doing here is when I was editing or typesetting Gravid, I learned that typesetting in Pages is a pain in the ass, and that you should have chapter breaks. I think Spathiwa has talked with me about this. Axel Boost says, I know law, but I like you anyway. But thank you. So arrogant. Oh my God. I had a girl break up with me. I actually like, like during the loneliness of this whole COVID thing, I like looked through like all the text messages that I had sent with like every girl I've dated for like the last 4 years. And the ones that I still liked, I sent them like messages like, hey, just checking on how you're doing. And like part of this was like anybody who didn't have like food or water or was like sick and needed help or whatever. If anybody had asked, I would have helped them out because, I don't really care if I live or die. But everybody was entirely self-sufficient and okay. And like a good number of these people responded back to me and like we're still like, oh, hey, how you doing? Thanks for ghosting me 2 years ago. But like running through it, you see all the text messages from girls that are broken up with you. And yeah, like there was definitely, it was like, oh, hey, you're cute and smart and had a really good time with you and so forth. But you're just too arrogant for me. And, or another one was like self-centered and so forth. I was like, Jesus. And the girl that I'm, the most current or recent person I was dating definitely like broke up with me at the start. And like, after we had been dating for like maybe like a month or two, just like, I'm fucking out of here. And, like she, after a week, she changed her mind and was like, hey, I fucked up. I definitely should have stuck with you. And I was like, I'll go talk with her and see what it's all about. And she, she was like, one of the things is that, was worrying me is just like how fucking arrogant you are. I'm like scared to introduce you to my friends. I'm afraid you'll be an asshole to her. And she's like, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm very arrogant. And, but it's not actually a problem. I'm like aware of it. And in social, in like groups, mixed groups and so forth, I'm not anywhere near as much of an asshole. And she was like, oh, I didn't realize you were self-aware about it. uh, yeah. Well, if I'm just here to discuss writing with you, but not date, it's not as big of an issue. Yeah. And yeah, I had to really like think about that for a little bit because yeah, it's definitely too much and definitely has a negative impact on my life. But in some ways, arrogance is almost like a superpower in that it comes with like a lot of self-confidence that you probably don't deserve. And it's that self-confidence that you don't deserve that allows you to do things like, I don't know, edit a story on a stream, or to fucking think that you deserve to write a story at all when there are, like 500 million other people who write stories. And, at least a significant percentage of them are going to be better than you. And probably nobody will ever read your shit in the first place, but you do it anyways because you're arrogant and are like, oh, I can do better than those guys, So a lot of the creative process is, to me, really undeserved, like self-congratulation. But I digress. Let's get into chapter 2 because this is going to be a fun chapter. They're all going to be fun chapters here. Like I like this book. Sir, the TARDS refuse. All right. They love the work. They were literally born for it. They were literally made for it. And so born is wrong here. Later in the book, we get into why. It didn't make any sense that the platoon would refuse. It didn't make any sense the platoon would refuse a crack at the greatest whale of all time. Why in the well not? The captain. Oh, God damn it! See, we started capitalizing whale again for some reason. Why? It didn't make any sense the platoon would refuse a crack at the greatest whale of all time. Why in the well not? The captain of Marines asked. No idea, sir. They want to talk to you. Somehow the CPO made it all the way to E8 and still addressed superiors like a shippy at recruit school. It was disconcerting. The captain of Marines was fairly sure the man was aware it bothered people and was doing it intentionally. Those people do exist. in the fucking military. Guys that just like do shit just to make you uncomfortable, like 24/7. So shippy is a real word, but I should follow the chain of command. Why didn't they go to the warrant officer? Sir, they won't talk to the warrant officer. He came to me. Why not? They say he's fussy, sir. Ah, god damn. Oh, I'm gonna go on a fly murdering spree soon. I'll slay them all, believe me. All right, so let's look at this dialogue right here. No idea, sir. They want to talk to you. Somehow the CPO. They should follow the chain of command. Why didn't they go to the warrant officer? Sir, they won't talk with the warrant officer. He came to me. Well, why not? They say he's fussy, sir. The captain of Marines exhaled through his nose and ran his hand over his scalp to the whorls of scar at the back of his head. There's no comma there. The captain of Marines exhaled through his nose and ran his hand over his scalp to the whorls of scar at the back of his head. His fingers were still surprised when no hair met them. He scowled at the CPO's full head of hair, his lips pursed with envy. Enlisted men could get any cosmic procedure they wanted, as long as their bodies remained mil-spec. Officers were not permitted to alter themselves. No vanity and no illusions. That was the price of command. I really like this conceit that the Navy doesn't allow officers to be religious or to make modifications to their bodies, like any of the trappings of vanity and religiosity. They just don't allow commanders to do that. Oh, that would be dope. But he's the biggest fussy in the fleet, the captain of Marines said, well aware that At that exact moment, the warrant officer was probably hissing himself in his quarters, wringing his sweaty little hands in terror that the comm would ream him out. He was a last-minute transfer from another ship when their original warrant officer suicided over a Dear John letter from a smart who was way out of his league. It was obvious the commander of the other ship had used the opportunity to hastily promote one of his lumps to get rid of him. The captain of Marines tried not to think about how common that kind of retrograde promotion was and what it said about the Navy's command structure. All right, I'll talk to them. Come with me. Let's go to the hive. Even the terminally chipper CPO couldn't quite hide his grimace. Sir, I'm just relaying the message from the warrant officer, he cried out, and it was as close as he could come to protesting. He wasn't... The chief petty officer wasn't the one who had chucked up, but the comm was unwilling to suffer alone. And I am shooting the messenger. Lead the way, chief. They squeezed through a claustrophobic nightmare of tunnels that led to the habitat cylinder resting on top of the ship's reactor pile. That led to the hive, the habitat cylinder resting right on top of the ship's reactor pile. Each man took a deep breath and steeled himself. Ready? The CPO asked. Who dares to summon me? Fucking 8 a.m. webcast. I don't want to do that. They squeezed through a claustrophobic nightmare of tunnels that led to the hive, the habitat cylinder resting right on top of the ship's reactor pile. Each man took a deep breath and steeled himself. Ready? The CPO asked. Aye, aye. So in this story, the smarts are the people who make the decision. They're basically the ruling class, the ruling and scientific class that makes many of the decisions. They're in a position of authority. We don't get super deep into them there, but the idea is that they're all women. It's not a real military slang. No, like nobody in the military is smart. Um, so it's just basically a way, like one of the biggest things in the military is like fucking constant complaining about whatever equipment you get, whatever chow you get. No matter, you're always bitching about what's going on. And so here, the smarts act as something that they can always bitch about. Ready? The CPO asked. Aye, aye. The CPO. The chief petty officer opened the hatch. The chief petty officer opened the hatch, and the funk hit the visiting officers like a prize fighter's jab. The chief petty officer opened the hatch, and the eye-watering funk hit the visiting officers like a prize fighter's jab. The heat rolled over them, nearly 50 degrees Celsius. They immediately began to sweat. The heat rolled over them, and they immediately began to sweat. It was nearly 50 degrees Celsius. The temperature would have been higher if the hive wasn't expecting company. The Marines liked it hot. They had not turned down their cylinder's rotation. Perhaps they had forgotten, but more likely their gunnery sergeant wanted to convey his displeasure. The chief of Marines clenched his jaw and fought his way forward, his body suddenly three times its normal weight. "Officer on deck!" one of the Marines bellowed. Both men felt every bone in their body lurch. The tardigrade augmented Marines had enlarged hyoid bones. They could shout a good... They could shout a good 30 decibels higher and louder. The tardigrade augmented Marines had enlarged hyoid bones. They could shout a good 30 decibels louder than a regular human, and did so often. The hive was absolute bedlam, but it swiftly fell in line. The comm clocked the end of 3 separate altercations, one fistfight, one wrestling match, one that might have been a little bit more than just wrestling. They all disengaged within 5 seconds, and the TARDS rose to attention, snapping crisp salutes as if 3 Gs were nothing. The comm fought against the tunnel vision creeping up on him and returned the salute, his arm feeling like it was cast from lead. "Spinning a little fast, Gunny," the comm remarked. "Oi! Comm on deck! Lefty! Are you chucking featured? Spin down!" "You told me to keep it up," Lefty protested. "Said to let Cappy sweat it." "Spin down, you Said to let Commie sweat it. Spin down, you chucking rabbit." The gunnery sergeant barked, loud enough to make the comm's ears ring. Anticipating what would happen next, the comm grabbed the CPO by the shoulder. The chief petty officer looked at him in confusion, but the next moment Lefty abruptly cut the cylinder's rotation to 1G, and both men nearly blacked out from the sudden shift. The chief lost his legs, and the comm managed to hold him up. Tardigrade augmented Marines had a relatively small vocabulary, and the word gradually definitely wasn't in it. "Thanks, Gunny," the comm said, as if he weren't in a desperate struggle to keep from losing his dinner. When the CPO found his legs, the comm released him, feeling relieved the man hadn't collapsed. The TARDS didn't react well to weakness. The Marines didn't react well to weakness. The chief of Marines stared out at the assembled unit of TARDS. Even after years of command, he still got a bit of the uncanny, not quite human twinge when he reviewed his unit. They were heavily boned, with jutting chins, fierce cheekbones, and big noses that had always been broken several times from the habitual scuffling and tomfoolery that occupy. They had big noses that had always been broken several times from the habitual scuffling and tomfoolery that occupied every waking minute in the hive. None of them were taller than 150 centimeters, but every tard in the unit outweighed the comm and the CPO. But every tard in the unit outweighed the chief of Marines and the chief petty officer combined. It's captain of Marines, actually. There were 22 of them, counting their gunnery sergeant. TARDS Space Marine units had just two ranks, Marine and Gunny. In the early days, the Navy had tried to enforce a normal command structure on TARD units, but it never quite stuck. In the early days, the Navy had tried to enforce normal command structure, but it never quite stuck. The artificial organization always collapsed and slid naturally into this configuration. TARDS thought of themselves as either Gunny or Marine. There was no need for anything else. Part of being a comm was understanding this, being able to understand their limitations and their strengths. Sorry about Lefty. He's a jupe pigger if there ever was one. Language, Gunny. What? You can't say pigger now? You can't say pigger, the comm said, as he had 100 times before. What am I supposed to call someone when they're acting like a pigger then? Just call him Lefty. Everyone will get the point. Oh, that's smart. Put a pair of fits on this one, am I right? Gunny joked to his men, cupping his pecs as they guffawed. Implying someone would transition to a smart always got a laugh. Gunny was bare-chested. His whole body was a slab of rippling muscle. The comm dimly remembered that it had something to do with inhibiting myostatin or promoting IGH or some other thing. Knowing what made them tick wasn't in his purview. The smarts could worry about that. The chief of Marines was only responsible for getting them into that whale and hopefully back out again. What's this I hear about you won't go, Gunny? The men don't like the look of that pinched-off turd of a whale. Looks like a real jit show, Cap. Sounds like fussy talk to me, Gunny. The comm measured the amount of insult in his tone as carefully as he might have measured the amount of Hayeks in a bomb. The consequences for miscalculation could be equally catastrophic. A chorus of angry denials sounded from the TARDS, booming like a troop of howler monkeys. At the comm's side, the CPO took a step back, ready to bolt through the hatch. The comm knew that was useless. There was no outrunning a TARD on a ship. They were built for this. We ain't fussy, Gunny barked back. Then what? The comm asked, feeling a mix of relief and satisfaction that he'd hit the mark. We need Bonzo. Bonzo's in the brig, the comm reminded Gunny, running his hand through the hair that wasn't there. He didn't like where this was going. Fallon, well, can't he come out for this one ride? The comm shook his head. He tried to get into the reactor, Gunny. The moment he said reactor, he could see every head there perk up. The TARDS were all fascinated with the ship's reactor. In some cases, obsessed. The captain of Marines had spent countless hours trying to get them to remember the simplest things, like the rule that one shouldn't enter the mess hall without a uniform, or that a uniform always included pants, or that showering was not only polite, it was mandatory. Success had been mixed. Yet when it came to reactors, the TARDS soaked up every piece of information they heard, and they never forgot. And they never forgot a single thing. Every TARD in the unit could rattle off the specifications of every reactor in the fleet, and the endless arguments over which was the best frequently came to blows. One of the comm's greatest triumphs was when he had the idea of letting the TARDS stand in the corridor and observe the reactor maintenance as a reward for keeping the hive's aroma mostly contained to their sector. They loved it. The TARDS loved it. They would cluster around behind the tech and ooh and ah at every step of the utterly mundane rod swaps and shielding integrity checks. When the technician completed the job, they would burst into applause. The chief engineer had been leery at first, but when the comm explained to him it was the only way to get the TARDS to regularly shower, he quickly upped the maintenance schedule from quarterly to weekly. The make work was a small price to pay for an olfactory boon to the entire ship. Ugh. From the ship's psychiatrist, the comm knew that all the TARDs dreamed about the reactor frequently. Many of them had a weird Thanatos compulsion that whispered to them to comply. Many had a weird Thanatos compulsion. All right. Yep. Many had a weird Thanatos compulsion that whispered to them to climb inside of it. Much of the psychiatrist's work with the platoon was intensely conditioning them not to try. Much of the psychiatrist's work with the platoon was intensely conditioning them not to try and enter the reactor. It was apparently impossible to stamp the urge out entirely. Any reactor on a ship with a TARD unit had to be rigorously secured. You know the rules, Gunny. Anyone trying to get in the reactor goes in the brig and misses the next whale. He was drunk, and Filthy dared him. You didn't put Filthy in the brig. I did put Filthy in the brig. 90 days, remember? Well, you didn't let him out. 90 days, remember? Well, you let him out. Filthy didn't try to get in the reactor, though. Aw, Bonzo wouldn't have actually got in there, Gunny said, and he had just an awful poker face. The comm had never met a TARD who could lie worth a damn. He bent the ever-living jet out of the stay bar. They needed a hydraulic wrench to bend it back. He could have killed everyone on this ship, Gunny. Bonzo's the bravest and the best pilot. We need him, Gunny restated, crossing his thick arms over his chest and jutting his bottom lip. The comm shook his head. Absolutely no. He had actually argued that they should have put Bonzo in the airlock and blasted him into space, but the Admiral hadn't been willing. Nobody had been jettisoned from a Navy vessel in almost a century. The comm argued there had never been a TARD like Bonzo, but he had lost the argument. Big whale out there. They tell me it's the biggest ever, Gunny angled, his intent transparent. Bigger, the comm said, echoing the Admiral. Whoa, a TARD named Heath said, standing to Gunny's right. His mouth was agape, as usual. Bigger than the biggest. That's not even possible, you featured, Gunny shot. I'm not featured. Kami just said it was, Heath protested. Kami's smart. You're both duped, Gunny said. He's just saying it's big so we forget about Bonzo. But we need Bonzo. No Bonzo, no breach. Capiche? Where in the well did you learn capiche? The comm asked, genuinely impressed. He'd worked with a lot of gunnies. None had ever picked up any Italian. Both this gunny and this Bonzo were definitely different. For the 1,000th time, he wondered how much was the smarts tinkering with the recipe. The TARs were definitely getting sharper every batch. The smarts must be tinkering with the recipe. Chappie taught me, Gunny said, beaming with pride. That was another unusual thing. Somehow Gunny had gotten the ship's chaplain involved with their weird little ceremonies where they all faced to the direction of the reactor and hummed together. The comm had never commanded a unit that created a reactor cult before, and it was unsettling. He had the feeling even if the god part of him hadn't been amputated, he still wouldn't be able to understand. The heat was starting to wear the captain of Marines down, and he was aware of a wheezing quality in the chief petty officer's breath. There was a solid chance the man was about to drop. Gunny's eyes were locked on the CPO. He didn't miss a step. Too chuckin' clever. The comm resigned himself to losing this negotiation. They needed the TARDs to get in the whale. No one else could do it. Gunny had picked exactly the right time to get what he wanted, and he staked out a position a runt hair away from outright insubordination. You couldn't get rid of a Gunny either, unless you were willing to put the whole unit in the brig. They were loyal unto death. Okay, Bonzo goes. But if I catch anyone near the reactor again, it's the lock. Capiche? The lock. Capiche. Oh, so we spelled capiche right. Oh, no, we didn't. Yeah. The lock. Capiche, all the tards repeated solemnly. Gunny was grinning ear to ear. Bonzo's back, boys. He clapped his hands together as loud as a whip. A moment later, there was the thunk of a body hitting the deck. The CPO had passed out. Okay, cool. So that's going to be our first 2 chapters of this guy. And I'm going to save that. And we will end our session here. And then we'll do more of these. I might do another one later today. And definitely every morning until this is done editing. We'll do this, and I'll start tinkering with like some bots and like an intro and stuff like that. But yeah, thanks for tuning into this thing. I'm enjoying Space Tards, and it has just fucking begun.